Your Cleveland Cavaliers are back on the winning track this week, including 2 payback wins. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, and Evan Mobley were all named All-Stars. Still shorthanded, guys have stepped up and given us some real feel-good moments. All in all, it's a great week to celebrate Cavs basketball. Hi, I'm Zach, and welcome to the Sports Ethos Cleveland Cavaliers podcast, your safe space to celebrate and nerd out about the Cavs. And when I say nerd out, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking hoops backed by stats you've actually heard of. To join the discussion, just use hashtag CavsCast on social media. Today, we'll dive into the biggest moments from the past week through a series of made-up awards before we look ahead to what's next in terms of matchups on the court, as well as the trade deadline. Let's start, as we always do with these episodes, with a quick recap of the past week for the Cavs. It started on Monday night with the Pistons in town. Their old coach, JB Bickerstaff, back in the building to receive a 110-91 drubbing. The Cavs led this game wire to wire. They outscored the Pistons in every quarter, despite only shooting 12 of 44, which is 27% from three. This was a big one for their confidence, especially on the defensive end. After a rough January in that regard, bottom 5 in the league in defensive rating all January long, this one felt good. It felt like they were getting back on the right track. And then on Wednesday, the Cavs were in Miami, who beat them during their last visit. So it was nice to see a little payback in the form of a 126-106 20-point victory. Again, while the Heat aren't a particularly great offensive team, bottom third of the league in points per game and 16th in offensive rating, they do have some guys that can get hot, like newly minted all-star Tyler Hero, who they held to 9 of 20 shooting and a minus 21 in his 34 minutes. Another strong defensive showing for the Cavs. And then on Thursday, they wrapped up a back-to-back back in Cleveland for our Revenge is a Dish Best Served Cold award for Game of the Week. And it was that Hawks revenge. Coming into this game, the Cavs had lost the previous 2 matchups against the Hawks. And it seemed like maybe, just maybe, they had their number. Well, here are some numbers from the previous matchups that stood out. This is combined. The Cavs averaged 112.5 points per game, which is significantly below their 122 for the year. They shot 43.6% from the field. Not quite as good as their 50% average, and 30% from the three-point line. Again, not really living up to their 40% average. They had a combined offensive rating of 107.7. They're typically at 121, but they did have that 121.2 for their defensive rating when they're normally about 112. That nets out to a minus 13.5 against the Atlanta Hawks. Clearly, the Cavs owed them one, and they gave it to them, scoring 39 in the first quarter. They clearly intended to turn the offense around from their first matchups and then matching that output again in the third while holding the Cavs to just 21 in that quarter. They also wanted to right the ship on defense. Check, never looked back. 137-115 was the final score in this game. And in a truly fitting and satisfying fashion, Darius Garland led the way in this game with 26 points, 7 assists. Both of those led the team. He added a couple of steals for good measure as well. And there were several reasons why this was satisfying. One was reflecting on Darius Garland's year last year. All the crap he went through and all the crap he took about how, he wasn't good anymore, apparently. He was just bad at basketball last year. Or so it seemed. At least he and Mitchell weren't going to be able to play together ever. It wasn't going to happen. So now, on the night that he was named to his second All-Star game, he turns in a true All-Star performance. It was also satisfying because Trae Young did not get into the All-Star game. He made his post on social media about being not snubbed, but trade at this point, and many Hawks fans tried to tear down Garland's All-Star resume to elevate Trae Young. So seeing Garland also outplay Trae, this head-to-head matchup just kind of had a little bit extra to it. And it wasn't just the Garland show either. The Cavs had 3 guys who dropped 20 plus in this game, 7 guys in double figures. Donovan Mitchell had 24 points and 6 assists. Ty Jerome dropped 20 with 6 assists of his own. And the third Cavs All-Star, Evan Mobley, had a double-double with 16 points and 10 rebounds. Jalen Tyson had 15 points in 17 minutes. Jarrett Allen had 15 rebounds. Max Strus, 3 for 4 from behind the arc. And this is one of my favorite stats from the game. George Niang scored 10 points in 18 minutes, and the Cavs were plus 25 in those minutes. And I know right now it just feels like I'm reading a box score to you, because I am. But what I'm trying to illustrate is just how many Cavs had a legitimate impact in this game. Just about everybody on the team got a chance for just a little bit of revenge against an Atlanta team that had a lot of people around the NBA in NBA discourse and certainly NBA Twitter calling the Cavs frauds for losing to them in back-to-back games earlier this season. I did my own deep dive after those losses just to see if there were any signs in the wins leading up to those. But my reaction was incredibly mild compared to the hot takes that you saw online. Saw things like, this is why they can't win in the playoffs. They're a fluke. Regular season team only. This is why you can't trust them. And the Cavs came out like they heard every single one of those people who had something negative to say, all of the criticism, and they used this game as their own hardwood therapy session. And for the Cavs fans that got to watch it, it just felt good. The next award that we're going to do is the started from the facial fracture, now we're here award for Cav of the Week. And this is the comeback story of the year for me personally. I love watching Darius Garland play basketball. I'm not even ashamed to admit that I was initially mixed on the Donovan Mitchell trade because I was worried that it could block Garland's development. To me, he was on his way to being the next premier pick-and-roll ball handler in the NBA. And bringing in a ball-dominant scoring guard like Donovan Mitchell was going to limit those opportunities. Now, it didn't take me very long to talk myself into this being worth the risk, and I'm going to say it took about, 4 minutes of watching them play actual regular season basketball for me to be completely on board because it was so much fun. I'll tell you that last year sucked. And it did have me worried that in JB's offense, Mitchell was going to take away those opportunities for growth for Darius Garland. And then you add in that broken jaw, the lost weight, the personal loss, the way that he just wasn't right the rest of the season. I was worried that even though I still believed they could play together and be successful, I was worried that they wouldn't. And to see the way that Darius Garland has bounced back this year, to see that guy whose playing style I personally love so much, to see he and Mitchell succeeding together, the Cavs have a plus 8.9 net rating when those two share the floor. And Darius has been so good. 22 points per game, 7 assists in just 30 minutes a night on 50, 42, 88 shooting splits. And beyond the numbers, the joy is back in his game. To see him selected to the All-Star game and come out the same night, leading the team statistically in a revenge game against Trae Young and this Hawks team, that alone is enough to be Cav of the Week for me. And while he did get a night off in Miami, He was no slouch on Monday night against JB's Pistons either, with 22 points, 5 boards, 7 assists, and plus 18 in 31 minutes in that game. This was the week of Darius Garland for me. The next award that we're going to do is the 1997 classic, the Sixth Man Award for X Factor of the Week. And for this one, Ty Jerome scored 55 points in 3 games for the Cavs this week. Back-to-back 20-point performances. One of them came in Miami when they needed him to step up with Garland getting the night off. To have a guy like that Kenny Atkinson can turn to is such a luxury. I think about some of the other teams around the league. What if Curry sat out for the Warriors, Maxey for the Sixers, Trae Young for the Hawks, SGA for the Thunder, De'Aaron Fox for the Kings? Well, for now. Pick your floor general on any team across the league. How many of them do you think have a backup that they can turn to who can just casually step in, up his minutes from 19 to 30, and drop 20 points and dish 7 dimes, and your team win those minutes by 14? I'll tell you, it's not many. In Memphis, when Ja Morant missed some time, Scottie Pippen Jr., of all people, did step up in those opportunities. Peyton Pritchard in Boston, he's had a ridiculous season off the bench, so you would think that the Celtics feel pretty good if they have to turn to him on a night like that, but it's rare. That's all I'm saying. It's rare. Count your blessings as a Cavs fan this year, because Ty Jerome has been a major X factor this whole season. And barring like a handful of games that he struggled, and with all the talk of them possibly trying to duck the luxury tax here at the deadline, will they be willing to go into the second apron this offseason? These are real questions. And Ty Jerome, alongside of these questions, is positioning himself to have a significantly lucrative payday this summer if he wants it. I hope he gets it in Cleveland, but I'm not going to take for granted that we're getting to witness what he's doing this season either way. The next award is going to be the Why Not Us Award for Quote of the Week. And it starts here. It's a team award. This is Darius Garland after the Atlanta game in his on-court post-game interview when asked if he had a little extra juice after being named an all-star. And what I want to do with this is I want to reflect a little bit on a tweet that I saw recently. I don't remember who posted it, or I would credit them. But they essentially asked, why? Why in this transitional period for the NBA, where LeBron James and Steph Curry are aging out as the superstars that carry the league, many people are asking, where is the next face of the league going to come from? And a lot of, I think most people would tell you something like, will it be Wemby? And will it be Amen Thompson at this point? Yeah, that one's a joke. But seriously, how good has he been? But this person on Twitter posed, why not Darius Garland? And I think if you were looking for an audition tape, not just the play in this game against the Hawks, but this interview is a great opportunity during a national TV game to explore, why not Darius Garland? So I want to pick it apart, the full response, because in just a few short seconds, he painted a picture of who Darius Garland is and why you should be a fan of this kid. He started it off by admitting that there was a little bit of juice after being named to the All-Star team right before the game, doing so in a way that showed personality, a youthful exuberance and joy for the game. And it was an honest and playful response, relatable, entertaining. That's what you want in a next up young star, isn't it? Isn't that why people look like that to Ant as a possibility here? It's not just the talent, it's the personality. But then they went into the bounce back. And Darius said, This time last year, I wasn't talking. I wasn't eating. Just to be here, I'm super blessed. It's just a reminder of how hard last year was for him on a human level, not just a basketball level. It's not just about he couldn't get his touch back after what he went through. It's not just about he wasn't at his normal playing weight, so he was getting pushed around. He dealt with true adversity and has come out and proven himself worthy of an all-star appearance as one of the best players in the sport. It's like a movie script. And isn't that what we gravitate towards in a protagonist of a movie? Someone who overcomes adversity, someone that we can root for. He's on a real life hero journey through the context of basketball. And if those aren't enough, he did what he's been doing all year. He brought it back to the team. It's a team award. We had a great start, a 15-0 start, and now we're here. We're all-stars. An unselfish answer. And if you followed this team all year, you know it's genuine. This isn't lip service. He's been crediting his team, advocating for his teammates, uplifting his teammates all year long. He's a selfless teammate and a positive leader. In 40 seconds, he's shown the national NBA audience who he is and why he's exactly the kind of kid that you do want to root for. Will he be the next face of the league? I doubt it. But if given the opportunity, the stage, and the platform to do so, the NBA could sure do a hell of a lot worse than Darius Garland. The next award we're going to do is the They Say You Don't Meet Your Heroes. But hey, sometimes it works out. Award for Moment of the Week. And I saw Mikey McNuggets post a video on Twitter from Twitter. It's X, right? Whatever. I still can't get that right. How long has it been? This came from after the Pistons game, where it appears in the video that George Niang just randomly saw a fan in the stands wearing his jersey. And he called them down to the court, signed his jersey, and took pictures with him. I got to tell you, this world is a stressful place. And people get nasty with each other, especially on the internet. And for whatever reason, especially about sports. I personally had a bit of a week. And seeing that video brought a sense of calm to me. It was a reminder that this is basketball. This is fun. And these freakishly gifted athletes, which is a sentence I never thought I would say so closely to George Niang's name, they're playing a game. And because they're so good at that game, they hold the power to bring people such joy and truly impact their lives in a positive way. Niang didn't have to engage with that fan, but he did. And that fan is going to tell that story to everyone he knows, and probably a bunch of people he doesn't know, and have a memory that he will likely cherish for the rest of his life because George Niang happened to see him wearing his jersey and decided to be a good dude. And that's the kind of moment that I needed. And when I saw it, the kind of moment that I think we need more of. The next award we're going to do is the He Can't Use That Word on Television award for Laugh of the Week. I've got Donovan Mitchell supporting Darius Garland here. And I'm going to be quick because the clip of, well, at least the part of that particular interview that I found so humorous was quick. It was in his on-court post-game interview after the Hawks game as well, telling everyone who wrote Darius Garland off last year to shut the hell up and watch the rest of the season. And I love seeing the way that Mitchell has been such a vocal leader and been so outwardly expressive in his support of Darius Garland and all the other guys on this team. He's been adding a lot of let's call it color to these interviews. He's showing so much personality. There have been several sound bites that have come out from these that honestly, they've just been really funny. From this one to the lady from the elevator that he dedicated a win to in Minnesota, all the playful pranks with the other guys that he does during their interviews. He just seems like a dude you want to follow. And bonus points for making me laugh. So the next award shall be the not one, not two, but three for number of the week, which is three. That's the number of all-star players the Cavs will send to the all-star game. Kenny Atkinson is going to be the head coach. And with the weird format, there's going to be a Cavs assistant coach who's going to coach one of the other teams as well. It's that wonky 4-team tournament thing. Donovan Mitchell may have suggested that they plan to participate in the skills challenge as a trio, which will be really fun. The wine and gold will be well represented on All-Star Weekend. I also wonder, perhaps, because I've not seen anything on this yet. We've seen some dunk contest names, but I haven't seen anything about the three-point contest come out. Maybe I've just been under a rock. But with Garland shooting 42% on the year, will he maybe consider doing the three-point competition? Wouldn't this one be fun? Ty Jerome shooting 43%. Could we get that lucky? If nothing else, this gives us a reason to watch the whole All-Star weekend when I'm not sure that all of us would have, given the state of the game and now that weird tournament that I mentioned. And who cares? Who cares? We get to watch our guys and celebrate all the Cavs that are going to be getting the recognition that they deserve as all-stars on that weekend when the NBA is on the main stage. Next award. Maybe it was something personal. Maybe it was just the defense. Award for performance of the week. And this is Donovan Mitchell against the Heat. I've talked a lot about the night that Darius Garland had against the Hawks, but I don't want to let it get in the way of Donovan Mitchell playing, just insane and let that go unnoticed against the Heat. Again, on a night when Garland was held out against a team who beat you last time you were there. The Cavs needed their leader to step up, and he delivered in such a big way. 34 points, 6 assists, 2 steals. He shot 5 of 11 from 3 with over a 72% true shooting percentage. And he did it in just 30 minutes. With the exception of a couple jumpers from the elbow free throw line area, he got every look from either the three-point line or down the lane. He had the floater going. He got to the rim. He got others involved. And he did a bulk of his damage in the first and the fourth quarters. He got him off to a good start, jumping out to a double-digit first quarter lead, one that the Cavs wouldn't ever relinquish, and closing the door in the fourth when Miami decided they'd try to get back into it. It was a big game for Donovan Mitchell. He needed to get his recognition, not just for making me laugh in an interview. And it was also a little bit redemptive for him in terms of the online discourse. If you remember, last time they lost in Miami, they caught some flack, particularly him, for going out to a party or whatever it was after a loss. I kind of wish that this hadn't been a back-to-back night so that they could go out in Miami after a big, big win. The next award. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. In My Mace Voice award for comeback of the week. It's Evan Mobley. While they did give up a ton of points in his first game back, that was technically in the previous week's award segment. It was good to see this past week the Cavs getting back to playing some pretty good defense. And Evan Mobley is just such a difference maker on that end of the floor, which we've always known. I also couldn't let this episode happen without a place to give him his flowers or whatever the new expression might be for also being elected or selected. Yeah, maybe both fit. Doesn't matter. He's going to the All-Star game, his first time. Admittedly, it doesn't feel quite as good for me, I guess. Good is the wrong word. Quite as uh, vindicated for me as Darius Garland's selection did. But that's not a knock on Mobley in any way. It's actually quite the opposite. I've felt like Mobley's case was a lot more open and shut than Garland's for quite some time now. Um, while I'm sure there have been some people who may have prematurely called Mobley a bust, which is just a ridiculous notion. If anything, you might have started to worry a little bit that he might not have the offensive leap that fans were hoping that he would take after the last couple of seasons did look a little bit stagnant or like pretty much the same. But even if he didn't, you're still working with one of the best defensive players in the league at 23 years old. So it's not exactly a whiff in the draft. And bust is just an idiotic word to associate with him at any point in time along the way. But as soon as we saw him showing that offensive growth, the way he's become such a catalyst for this team on both ends of the floor, an all-star appearance felt inevitable. And it was, because Evan Mobley made it inevitable. The final award that we're going to give out is the Who's a Good Boy award for Dog of the Week. And sure, this could go to a player for a particularly gritty or gutsy performance, perhaps. But what's the fun in that? This past week, the Cavs brought on a new member of the team in Reggie, the NBA's first service dog in training. Reggie is an 11-week-old yellow Labrador retriever who's joining the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Monsters as he begins training to become a service dog. He's going to hang out with both of the teams, and it's part of his training. This is supposed to help him get whatever, like calming training and used to being around people. And then once his training is over, he'll get matched up with a U.S. vet or first responder with disabilities. And it's pretty cool to see the Cavs get involved with a program like this. If you do want to look up anything or learn more about it, it's America's Vet Dogs Puppy with a Purpose initiative. And yeah, it's definitely something new for a team in the NBA to do, hence the first. And it's nice to see the Cavs do it. And also, apparently, everybody but Max Strus likes dogs. That's all for the awards I've got for you this week. If you want to nominate your own, you can use hashtag CavsCast on X or Blue Sky. You can follow and at the show at Ethos Cavs so that I can actually see who you're nominating. And if you want to double up your chances, go ahead and add myself in there too at Zach-NBA. So the NBA trade deadline is on Thursday. And while we've all discussed at great length the possible moves that the Cavs could possibly make, possibly drink, whether that be in either direction, right? They could take a big swing on a guy like Cam Johnson, or they could make something happen to try to duck under the luxury tax. We've heard both. And while I think that I've made my feelings fairly clear on this podcast, so I'm not going to ramble on about it, but if you are new, in a nutshell, I'm in the camp of not being particularly concerned with the luxury tax. Ducking below the luxury tax is really just a move to save Dan Gilbert from paying an extra bill and getting into that non-tax payers pool. While I understand that Kobe Altman may need to be concerned with that, as a fan of the team and someone who simply talks about basketball, I'm not in the business of worrying about where Dan Gilbert one of the richest owners in American sports, is going to get his next meal. He's going to be okay. Come this offseason, they're going to be in the first apron at minimum and likely the second, regardless of what they do at this deadline. Will ending this season tack on, a few extra dollars in the name of repeater tax for Dan Gilbert? Yes. But it's not going to start the clock on any repeater apron penalties that impact the avenues available for them to build or manage this roster. So I say, if you believe that this team can win a title and you've got a trade available to you that improves your chances of doing that, do it. Championship level teams are rare. And if you have one, maximize it because you never know when you might have one again. Now, if that move's not out there, you don't force one just for the sake of making a trade. And definitely, in my opinion, you don't make this team worse to simply save Dan Gilbert money. But the big swing simply might not be there for them to take. After De'Aaron Fox and Jimmy Butler, Cam Johnson is likely the biggest name on the market, depending on how you feel about a guy like Brandon Ingram. And he's going to fetch a really nice haul, I think, for the Brooklyn Nets. Even if the Cavs were to empty the asset chest, which you may not think that they should even be doing for a guy like Cam Johnson. I certainly have my reservations, which I talked about on last Monday's show. So if you want to hear that, go back and listen. But even if the Cavs did do that, it's not a massive package, and it might not even get the deal done. So what I'm going to be particularly interested in for this deadline for this week is seeing if Kobe Altman can get creative as a facilitator. Let's say another team is trading for one of those bigger guys out there. This new CBA makes the money even harder than it used to be to make work. And it may take some extra finagling to get those deals done. There's some big contracts that could be on the move, which means player aggregation, which has always been tricky mid-season, even before aprons. Could we see Kobe, like he did to get Jarrett Allen, find a way to swoop in as a third or fourth team even in one of these bigger deals to snag a position of need? Maybe New Orleans needs a place to dump a Javonte Green or a Daniel Tice in a hypothetical Ingram deal. Maybe there's a way to sneak in and grab like a Day'Ron Sharp or a Trenton Watford or Noah Clowney or somebody from Brooklyn in their Cam Johnson deal. It's assumed that De'Aaron Fox is going to the Spurs. It seems like basically a given at this point. Could the Spurs need a spot for, I don't know, a guy like Julian Champagny or Charles Bassey to land? Would any of those guys even fit the bill? Honestly, I didn't even look to make sure every single one of them is even, not hurt or something. But like they're just guys that could be needed in trades to make money work, but then may need rerouted, on the other side for the money to work. And, who knows? Yeah, but it feels like the most likely outcome, if any moves are made for the Cavs, might be the thing that we don't see coming. In next Monday's award show, we're going to be celebrating the moments that tell the story from this week's game, which include Sundays, depending on when you're listening or watching this. Maybe today, might be happening right now. I don't know. But I will be including that one in next week's award show. Then we'll also have the Tuesday game when the Celtics will be in Cleveland. That one will be on TNT. So another national broadcast opportunity. Wednesday, the Cavs are heading up to Detroit for the second night of a back-to-back. And then Friday, they'll be in Washington to face the Wizards. And now, like I do before we close out all of these, is I try to give you the most dangerous game that we're going to see. And clearly, it's the Wizards. Don't be that team. I'm kidding. It's Boston. Yeah, they've won a couple in a row now. As of when I was looking at stuff, they were 6-4 in their last 10. Similar to the Cavs, they did not shoot the three ball particularly well in January. Both teams, in fact, shot 36%. That did not stop either of them from trying. The Celtics still lead the NBA in attempts, and the Cavs were third in January. If both teams were to continue to struggle from three, I like the Cavs' chances. I think they have more to go to inside the arc than Boston does between lobs and dump offs from the guards. The way the Cavs cut and the big to big passing, they don't have to make threes to win if they don't settle for outside jumpers, which was definitely an issue in the first matchup when they lost to the Celtics earlier this year. Now, they didn't have literally any wings available in that game, but if you remember, Darius Garland in particular, but he and Mitchell both, they it felt like they got baited into a lot of off the dribble jumpers and they missed so many jumpers. But for the Celtics, if the three ball's not falling, it feels like it's up to the Jays to make tough ISO jumpers. And while both of them are capable of being dangerous, when they're doing that, I feel good about that trade-off. The thing is, the Cavs have to actually, force those threes to be misses. As we know, opponent 3-point percentage has been a bit of a problem for the Cavs all year. They're currently 25th, allowing opponents to shoot 37%. In case you're wondering, the Celtics are 7th in holding their opponents to 35%. Even if word around the league is that the Celtics are bored, them supposedly coasting, I mean, it still has them with the third record in basketball. So they're the defending champs for a reason. They're always going to get up for a matchup against the Cavs, and it's obviously going to be a big one. Now, if you made it to the end of this episode, please leave a like if you're watching on YouTube or rate the show 5 stars in the podcast app that you're using right now. That would go an extremely long way to help the show grow, and I would greatly appreciate it. Next time you hear from me, I'm going to be joined by Justin Rowan. Normally, I save my guest discussions for Thursdays, but I believe we're going to drop that one early. I'm thinking probably Tuesday. With the trade deadline being on Thursday, I'm going to be jumping on our Sports Ethos trade deadline show. And who knows what may or may not go down for the Cavs. So I want to have a little bit of extra flexibility that day, kind of just in case. So we are shifting the schedule. I mean, as you can see, this came out early as well. So we're just kind of moving things slightly for this week with the trade deadline falling on a day that I would normally be posting a regular episode. And so, yeah, that's the plan. Now that the episode is over, go ahead and open up your app store and download the Sports Ethos app for one of the best blurb feeds in the business. Cavs players represented, fantasy tools, updates, all that stuff. It's all there in the Sports Ethos app. As always, I'm Zach. Thanks for nerding out with me, Cavs fans.